Welcome to the Connor Churlin podcast, where I, Connor Churlin, meet up with a musician, hear about what makes them tick, ask them to play a song, see what kind of life experiences they're bringing into their music. And on today's episode, we have Maya Elise. What a great conversation, talking about moving from a solo project to a band project, talking about what it's like to have a dad who picks up hitchhikers. Seems like a great thing, teaches great generosity skills. Anyways, I hope you enjoy this conversation with Maya and I, where we forget the word proxemics, which is when the melody does the same thing that the lyrics are talking about. So later on, when you hear us forget that word, know the word is proxemics. Please enjoy Maya Elise. Thanks so much for hanging out today. I'm glad you had a slow morning with such a good vibe to have a conversation. I heard you just had a trip to your cousin's house. How was it?
Oh, yeah, it was to my brother's house in Arizona. I got to see my nephews. They're like 4 and 6. No, 4 and 8. It's been like 2 years since I've seen them, so it's crazy to like watch them grow.
Where in Arizona?
Tucson, Arizona.
Tucson, nice.
Yeah.
My parents live out in Arizona as well.
Oh,
Seems like a spacious place. I've really been enjoying listening to your music. It makes me think that you pick up hitchhikers very frequently. Do you?
No, I don't.
Okay.
The song, that song is like a little bit. Some of it is true and some of it is fiction. I don't like to reveal which parts are true and which parts are fiction, but it was inspired by an experience when I was a little kid, where my dad and I picked up some people that needed a ride.
Cool.
When we were in Ohio. It like really stuck with me that he did that. Apparently. So
that's it's a bold call, especially with like a kid. How old were you at the time?
I was like 8, I think.
Wow.
I mean, my dad is a deadhead and these people were deadheads.
Nice.
So there's this kind of like, oh, we're family, it's cool, kind of vibe. So
did they have some sort of symbol to show that they were deadheads, or it just so happened?
My dad was wearing a Grateful Dead shirt and they kind of approached him. I think we were driving through Ohio, we were like at a McDonald's. I don't think you just like come across other deadheads in like rural Ohio.
Sure.
So often.
Yeah.
Most of them left, right? So I think they were like, oh, this guy might help us out. So, yeah. That's
awesome. I also really enjoyed the in a different song, the visuals of a kitchen scissor haircut, which also I'm just there's a lot of really great visuals that I'm enjoying, so I figured I'd just call out some highlights. That
Thanks.
Seems legit. Is that a real thing that you do?
That's legit. Yeah, I mean, right, like maybe a few months before the pandemic, I got bangs, and they're like a lot to maintain. You have to cut them often.
Yeah.
And during the pandemic, I was like, well, I'm not gonna like go somewhere every time I need to get my bangs cut. So I use the kitchen scissors to cut my hair because they were the sharpest ones in the house.
Jeez.
And I could have just like gone and gotten hair scissors, but I didn't do that.
So the Breakdown album, was that done like fully in quarantine then?
Yeah, me and my band did the whole like test quarantine, create our own bubble for a week up at my drummer has a studio in Sebastopol, California, which is really beautiful. It's like out in the woods, and so we went up and stayed there for a week and pretty much recorded the whole thing with the exception of like the cover, and I think I went back and like did some overdubs later, but yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was so fun.
Some of the vocal arrangements are so fun, like for Going Nowhere. You have all those like sharp ahs coming in, and there's just like a lot of really good floaty things. Is that you producing, or who's helping you with that?
Great question. Since we were all there, we were all in the room together. It's like one giant room.
Yeah.
It ended up kind of being a group production project versus like one person being like, all right, do this, try this. And so that was my idea, the Oz. But I can't take credit for everything on the album.
Sure. But you can take the Oz, that's fine.
I can take the little sharp Oz.
Yeah.
And that was a fun moment for me because I feel like the first album that I made, I had no idea what I was doing and really relied on my producer, David, and other people to kind of like know better.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like for this one, I really trusted myself a little bit more. And had I had more moments where I felt like I really did know what I wanted, which was like a nice shift from the first project I did.
What do you think was it just like self-confidence, or what was the difference? Maybe more song knowledge in general? Like, what do you think built that confidence in you or gave you that reason for confidence?
Yeah, I think just more experience in writing, more like listening to more music. And I mean, I think the first album was kind of a process where I learned how other people listen to a song to hear what the production is like. Like, I had never done that before. I'm like, oh, I like the lyrics. I like the way this makes me feel. And so really like listening to other people be like, oh, the production's really nice, and be like, oh, what does that even mean, right?
Yeah.
Now I'm like listening to music and I'm like, oh, what's that over there? Like, what's that over there? I think spending more time with other people who are creating music was a big part of that. And also just like, I don't know, I was like 3 years older than the first one, like have more experience and know myself better. And I also got a team, or like my band that I got together, it's like, it was 4 people that I just love so much. And so I felt like really supported by them. And also I felt like they really trusted me. It was less unfamiliar. Like the first time I was like, I don't know these people very well. And so this time it was like, oh yeah, like I can say whatever I want, even if it's a bad idea. And I think getting over that hurdle was really important.
That's great. When you are listening to songs with a more like producer's ear, what types of things do you find yourself being drawn to?
Right now I'm really listening to guitar tones.
Ooh.
Like what kind of tone are they using, or like trying to figure out how they like got that tone. I'm also listening to the way people are using like what my bandmate and someone who produces with me, Gordon, he always talks about like ear candy, like what kind of ear candy is in this song, like something you might not notice right away.
Right.
But then you like put headphones on and you're like, oh yeah, there's this like kind of swirling sound like in the back left, like what's going on there? And like song like might appear really simple, but that it's kind of that sort of stuff. Like what are like the secrets that I can put in that aren't like key features of the song, but really like make it feel exciting. What
do you have any good like ear candy that you've been really inspired by lately?
Yeah, I mean, oh gosh, so much. I'm just gonna pull up this note because
nice.
If I can find it. Well, I won't look for it right now. But yeah, I've just been listening to so much Madison Cunningham. I just saw her live and it was just like, oh my gosh. It was incredible. And then also Katie Kirby. And I feel like the song Portals has been a really important song to me. And there was this kind of like synthy sound and I wasn't quite sure. I was like, how did she get that? It must be a synth. And then I just saw her live as well. And it turned out someone was like playing the saw with like a violin bow. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, of course, you know?
The saw.
Right. And it's so funny. Like, I think right now I'm kind of like, it's synth. Like everything is synth that I can't explain, you know? Everything is like a computer. And then I get up there and someone has like, I don't know, a violin or a cello bow is kind of far away. I was playing the saw and I was like, you can do anything, right?
Yeah. Retro. The saw.
Yeah. Yeah, the saw.
You mentioned these guys that have been a very integral part of you moved from a solo project to a band project, and now they seem very close to you, like very close friends as well.
Yeah.
What has that been like, moving from solo into band, and like having like what's that creative relationship like?
It's really amazing. Most of them are songwriters in their own right, so they all have like ideas about melody and lyrics, and it really does feel like a family, especially when we're recording. Like I can get annoyed with them. I think I'm the one that like I get kind of like overwhelmed in the studio when everyone's like bringing their opinions in, so I'm the one to be like, everyone stop talking, you know? Like, this is everyone, 3 people need to leave the room right now or something like that, you know? But it's like, it's kind of like how you would talk to your siblings and know that like you still really love them. Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me is that I was feeling pretty lonely playing by myself.
Yeah.
I feel like I didn't have like the buy-in from anyone else no one else was going to like love this as much as I do. And now that I have a band to play with, I feel like way less alone in this endeavor, which is like choosing to do music in this way is like both a really easy decision for me and also like kind of scary.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I feel less alone. I feel like not every idea has to come from my brain, which is really nice. It's like I can be like, what do you think right now? I don't have any more ideas, and someone else can like take it over for a second. So it's really nice.
That's really sweet. Well, when you're a solo project, your personal ambitions for the project are, that's the goal. That's where you go. That's how you set the target.
Right.
When you're with a group of people, like, how did you negotiate like the group's goal and like the group's vision for like where to take the band, and where do you think that is?
Yeah, it's kind of different for each person. I would say like the core band is this trio. So that's me and Jordan Lowe and McGilvery Allen, also goes by Gordon. I think like for Gordon especially, like he's like, I want to play as much music as possible, right? Mm-hmm. And so for me, that was kind of like a kick in the butt to be like, all right, like let's book a tour, because if I want to keep you around, because he's like such an important person to me, and especially in this band, like he means so much to me and to this music. And so like if I want to keep him around, like we got to be playing all the time, so it's been like a really, and like I would say that to his face, we've had this conversation before. So to me, that's like was a really important thing. It's like really motivating to have other people invested and also kind of like relying on you to like be choosing music, be choosing to play, and be choosing to record. I think I really needed that, like in some ways, that pressure to like fully commit.
So that pressure feels positive to you? I feel like
oh yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, and it's not like, come on, Maya, like get it together, but it's like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
Do you want to do this? Like, okay, well then let's actually do it. Let's not just talk about tour, like we could talk about like, oh, when we're on tour, but like, are we really booking it? Are we really like reaching out to people? Are we really like playing all the time or as much as we can? So yeah.
The project is named Maya Elise and the Good Dream, which makes you the leader ? So when it comes to responsibilities, everybody has to have like some responsibilities that has to be spread out, but there is like, because it's your name, I would assume that there'd be a greater percentage designated to you. How do you work that out?
I think that's like an ongoing process.
Yeah.
I'm definitely a self-diagnosed control freak. And so I kind of like having that responsibility.
Yeah.
And I like to be organized, and I like to make the spreadsheets and like book the tour. But to me, it's about having people I can go to be like, hey, I need help with this. Like, I need help promoting this show. I need you to literally just come sit next to me and listen to me talk out loud while I like plan out this route. And I could ask like anyone to do that. They don't have to be in my band, but like it feels way better that they are. I don't know. I'm not a control freak. I love like bringing people in. I love like, I don't want to be alone. I want people's ideas and I want people's support. And like, I'm like learning how to ask for that support through this, having a band. And
That's
everyone
great.
has different capacities. So it's like, I can't ask everyone for everything.
True. Yeah. And I mean, because it is a project under your name, the buck kind of does stop with you.
Yeah.
So even if you wanted to, you wouldn't be able to ask them to do the same kinds of things that you would be supposed to be doing.
Yeah, maybe eventually. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, fair distribution of work throughout a band seems like a very hard topic for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I also think that like it doesn't have to be even.
Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, if we want to like get into like politics, it's not like you have to do like, like if you don't work as hard, you don't get as much. Like that's not how I want this world to be.
Right.
Because we all have like limits into how hard we're able to work, right? Like Jordan's in grad school right now.
Oh wow.
So I can't like ask him to like do everything. Coming to rehearsal and like playing shows is like what he can do right now, and like that's great. I'm so grateful that he can do that. I'm also of the mindset right now, like I'm not trying to burn out, and I'm not trying to have anyone else around me burn out
Yeah.
from the things that I'm asking them to do. I think like in some ways the pandemic was good for that for me,
Mm-hmm.
because like I quit my job in December 2019. I was
Oh,
like,
wow.
music full time, let's go.
Yeah.
And like, then came to a screeching halt.
Creeching halt. Yeah.
Screeching halt. I don't know, whatever it was.
That's
And
great.
I had to really be like, okay, how do I want to do this? Do I want to just like burn out by like touring all the time and like go, go, go? And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, no, I don't really want to do that. Like, I want
Yeah.
this to be sustainable, like emotionally and spiritually also.
Wait, so you quit December and then
Mhm.
everything shut down March. So
Yeah.
did you tour between December and March?
No, I went and traveled in Italy.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah. I was
Dang.
like, oh, I'm going to go travel. I'm going to come back. And I started to book a tour while I was abroad, just like a West Coast tour.
Yeah.
That obviously didn't happen. But then, like, I don't know, all these people that I really admire and love were like available to record an album and maybe
Wow.
wouldn't have been. Like, the person who recorded bass on the album had just released his own album. And so he probably would have been touring.
Yeah.
Not to be like selfish, like, oh, I'm glad that he
Yeah.
wasn't touring, but like it was great.
You're glad
all
that he
these
got to be on the
people-
album.
Yeah, all these people were around and we got to make music together. So
When did things start picking back up for you? Like when did touring scheduling start again?
we've been on a couple like shorter tours this summer.
Yeah.
Just like a few days here, a few days there. And that felt really good. Like we're really into doing house concerts, so like
Yeah.
backyard shows felt like kind of the first accessible thing for us. Yeah, this summer, maybe in like I think it was like June or July. And then we released the album, bless you.
Thank
We
you.
released the album in August and have played some shows since then. And then right now I'm just kind of getting started to like figure out some longer stretches in 2022.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
The backyard concert scene during COVID, was that easy for you to navigate, like during COVID with people? You're in Portland?
I'm in Oakland.
Oakland.
California.
You're in
Yeah.
Oakland?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great. I'll be there so soon.
Where are you?
I'm in Santa Barbara, but my
Okay.
grandparents live in Alameda, so I'm in
Oh, nice.
Oakland quite a lot. At the beginning of the pandemic, there was so much hesitancy around live music, even at a
Mhm.
like intense distance, being like, no, I'll be like
Right.
100 feet away from you, or just we can still do this, but like very
Yeah.
spread out, far apart. What was that like in Oakland?
It felt really good. I think we started to figure out, like, as a society that, like, especially in Oakland, like, I think the pandemic was taken really seriously.
Mm-hmm.
I think we started to figure out, like, what is actually safe versus what isn't. And it became pretty clear that, like, outdoor events, once people are, like, getting vaccinated,
Mm-hmm.
actually is okay.
Yeah.
And like, I was like, great, I'm going to take it and run with it until
Yeah.
someone tells me otherwise. I was like, not looking back,
Yeah.
I'm still feeling like medium about indoor shows.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do them, but I think I want to be cautious about, especially being the one like taking my mask off. Like,
Yeah.
I want to be cautious about like getting tested before. I don't know. I can convince myself that it's okay, and then I think about like, well, what if like I had COVID and I just like took my mask off inside and sang to like a room full of people. Like,
Right.
I'm getting there with it, but
Yeah.
I'm not quite there.
Yeah. It feels so tricky
Yeah.
because every work opportunity that comes in, especially right now, just wanting to take it so bad,
Mm-hmm.
and then realizing like, oh my God, I have to set up this boundary, and then you're doing this dilemma between like
Right.
your need for money and
Right.
your desire to keep other people like,
Safe and
yeah,
healthy.
safe.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. If an artist I really love was like, hey, do you want to come on tour with me tomorrow?
Yeah.
And like, we're playing all these venues, I'd be like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, it wouldn't be a hard decision, but there's,
Right.
it's just, it comes with a risk right now. And that's like something I gotta live with.
Right. I would love to switch gears really quickly to ask about how you got Whitman College to divert from fossil fuels.
Oh, I did not get Whitman College to divert
Oh,
from
you did
fossil
not?
fuels. Personally, no.
No, tell me this story.
But that was a whole. I mean, it was a big effort over many years.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be the one to take credit for
Sure.
it.
Yeah. Were you involved in some way?
So there was a group in college called Divest Whitman when I was there, and I kind of started paying attention to it not until my senior year, which I think is when it like got kind of big. And then there was a call for alumni. Like I graduated, or before I graduated, I was in a duo with my friend Jonas Myers. We kind of started like writing about the environment. Like he was writing about the environment and I was writing about the environment. And so then we met with the Divest group and like played these songs, and it felt like, oh, music can like be a part of this process and this movement. And then there was a big call for alumni to not donate until Whitman divested. So I abstained my minuscule donation that I would have made until they divested, and they recently did, which is really cool. Yeah, I mean, there's been so many students and faculty who have put in a ton of effort into that process, and Whitman, small private school, you got to start somewhere. Yeah, we have to divest. And I think it was the first time, like my senior year of college was like the first time when I really I started to feel the anxiety of climate change. Yeah. Like I was like, oh, there's like something in my body that is like feeling anxious most of the time when I hear about climate change. Which it should make us feel anxious. It's really scary.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you an environmental studies major, or how did you?
No, I was a music theory major, classical music theory. At a school that small, you kind of like are aware of everything else that's going on. It's not like you're just like in the practice room all day.
Because I wasn't a music major. So how valuable do you feel like that was to where you are right now?
I think it was very valuable in some ways. I think it was like almost more symbolic than anything of like making a choice to like study music versus something else, and like deciding that this is like important enough to me to like spend 4 years learning about.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm not playing classical music so much anymore,
right.
But actually like seeing Madison Cunningham and like people like her who are playing guitar in these really interesting ways has been really inspiring. And I'm like, at her show, I was like, oh yeah, I hear the counterpoint. Like I hear Bach, you know, and I like hear this stuff that like, I hear how she's like taking a motif and like flipping it on its head and putting it backwards. And like, wow. I think in those moments, I'm like, I want to like go back to what I learned and be like, how can I, and like Margaret Glaspie is another person who really inspires me in that way. I want to go back and take some of what I learned and bring it into like a non-classical framework.
Motifs, the recent Bo Burnham special.
Yeah.
Just a song that like the final song being like not even like that amazing of a song, but just bringing back all the motifs from the entire thing and making you weep, because it's just like, it's just, he made you feel all these things, and then to bring them all in at the end, bringing in motifs in a different context creates an entirely different swirl of emotion.
Yeah. And
yeah, I'm just shocked that I like never use it.
I know. I mean, I really should use it more. I think I'm trying to use it a little bit more, especially like melodic motifs. And also like with words, like bringing back little thematic motifs, changing a word. I mean, it's really popular in country music to kind of like end the song with like the first line, but like slightly different because the story has changed. You know, like, I mean, it's kind of corny, but like it works. You're like, oh wow, they like look at the transformation, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah.
I feel like I was, again, had like no music education, so I learned through YouTube videos. I like watched a YouTube video on motifs in Hamilton, and like being blown away about how words are being used in different songs to mean these different things. So that's as far about it as I know. Would you be at all interested in playing one of your songs?
Sure. Yeah.
To throw in another curveball. I'm not the best at transitioning today.
No, that's great. Transitions are hard.
I really enjoyed Going Nowhere this morning.
Okay, nice.
You're welcome to play whatever you want.
Okay. I'll play Going Nowhere. Let's buy a boat and sail away up to Alaska, where we'll watch the ice melt away. We'll build our home up on a dream, a perfect paradise where you're the king and I'm the queen. I'll paint a picture out of dust and decorate our living room with photographs of us all. Don't you know this dream ain't ours? We're just two kids trying to smoke a big cigar, so leave your sweater in a drawer. We aren't going where the weather's cool. Some say cold, it's too warm outside. I've heard you 3 times, maybe 4. Let's steal a plane and fly somewhere. They'll never catch us just as long as we stay in the air. We'll bring all our food on board and all the water that we need to make this garden grow. I'll be the captain of our plane. You'll be the flight attendant. All our passengers can blame. Say, sir, I need another drink or 2 or 3. Oh, don't you wish this wasn't all fantasy? So leave your spacesuit hung up dry. I'm not quite ready to make flight out of here. I could use another year or 2 of gravity to keep me down before we go away together, away forever, away. Let's buy a boat and sail away up to Alaska, where we'll watch the ice melt away.
Cute.
Thank you.
I like it. That key change is so cool.
Thanks. I actually wrote that song like 6 years ago, when I was still at school. Yeah, that was like the first time I put a key change in a song.
Yeah, can you show me how you're doing it?
Yeah. I could use another year or 2 of gravity to keep me down. Before we go, I go to that from the F to the E, and then I treat the E as the 5. Away.
Cool.
And then move to the move to a B. I have a capo on, so I treat the F sharp as the 5, and now we're in B.
Nice.
And then throw a major 2 in there to throw off that we're no longer in B. And then I love using a minor 1, and then kind of land in the F sharp as the 1. For like just momentarily. So away, away, almost as if it's a minor 4, and then F sharp, and then G, A, and then we're back in D.
Wow.
I don't know. It's fun. It's fun to move in circles.
Yeah. It works really well.
Thank you.
Particularly in the theme of flying, to like be like, give me a second before we fly, and then to modulate up and then to come back down. It like fits within like what the song is saying at the same time.
Yeah, I love doing that. There's a term for that in classical music, but I can't remember what it's called.
Yes, it's when the melody is doing a similar thing as the phrase,
or as like the lyrics are saying.
Yeah. Ooh, I just learned this.
It's okay. I should remember, but I don't. See, this is where I have to go back and be like, what were all those things that I learned?
We know that's a thing.
Right. Yeah.
And it's a thing that people like. I typically ask people about books, what kind of books that they're very interested in. I came across you talking about Braiding Sweetgrass and How We Show Up. I've read half of Braiding Sweetgrass, and then I let it go. And that is such a tragedy.
You gotta finish it. It's so good.
Can you tell me about How We Show Up, or if there's another book that you're interested in or want to talk about?
Yeah, How We Show Up is like kind of like it when anyone asks like, what should I read? That's the book I tell people to read. It has like the most beautiful visions and examples of what community can look like outside of the structures of capitalism. But also inside the structures of capitalism. So it's like, how do we show up for each other so that we're not just like relying on the government, essentially? I mean, that's not what the book is about, but to me, that was like one interpretation. It was like, how do we be in relationship with other people to actually create like networks of mutual aid and support? That's period. End. And it's a really beautiful book. It's by Mia Birdsong. She lives in Oakland.
I would imagine that the advice of being just like have empathy for the people you care about and like ask them what they need. Just assume that people are in need and like anticipate their needs and like help to meet them. What other type of nuance did you find in that advice?
Yeah, great question. I think one example that I can't remember if this was an example from Mia who wrote the book, or she kind of has a lot of other people talk about their experiences. But one example that was written about was how just asking, like, can I help? What do you need? To people is sometimes a really overwhelming question.
Right.
Because it's like, I don't even know what I need right now. Right. But, like, saying, hey, can I come over and do your laundry for you? Or can I come over and, like, cook dinner for you? And, like, kind of offering something specific. I think she was talking about, like, people who have kids and, you know, work full time. And it's like, their lives are really busy. And, like, it's hard to even know how to begin to ask for help. And how, like, asking and receiving help actually, like, makes our communal network stronger. And refusing help, like when someone says, like, can I do this thing for you? And we're like, no, it's fine, I got it. Like, interrupts that process of building these, like, mycelial networks between people. And
does she refer to it as a mycelial network?
She might. She probably does. Like, mycelium's hot right now, you know? Like,
yeah, it is. I was like, yeah, it's very... very like, poppin' in the
I mean it's in Braiding Sweetgrass, I think, and I'm reading another book right now called Finding the Mother Tree. It's a memoir by a woman who has studied mycelium and learned a lot about it.
Yeah, that's a very hot topic right now. People are crazy for mushrooms right now.
Yeah.
The pandemic, they were like, mushrooms are the way out, apparently. What is the worst advice that you've received about your music career?
Oh my God. Well, people love to like tell me things, like just like being a woman and playing music, and people love to tell me what they think I should do. And sometimes it's really good advice. And so I'm always like open when someone's like, hey, can I offer some advice?
It's hard
nice when they ask.
Opening sentence.
Right. And I'm like, I always kind of like put my guard up a little bit. I think the worst advice I got recently was don't print CDs. No one buys them.
Huh.
It's not like the worst advice. It was just it just feels not true. Like,
yeah, because that's not true.
It's like, well, maybe we just need to work harder to sell them, right?
Yeah.
You know, like maybe the pitch isn't good enough. Like when I'm trying to get people to buy merch at shows, I'm like making it more about them, like buy my CD, like so that you can listen. It's like when you buy this CD, it like fuels this passion for me, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I tell people, even if you don't have a CD player, it's beautiful art and you can take it home. You know, like people buy the CDs.
Yeah.
So I felt a little vindicated when I started to sell CDs that like, you know, someone who told me like, you really shouldn't be printing CDs. I was like, well,
Yeah, the cost compared to vinyl is still like so much cheaper, and they're physically smaller. Like the actual cost is relatively low.
Yeah.
Granted, I mean that's excluding all the work that you put in the studio.
Yeah.
So just like excluding all of that. I also find that people are still buying it, and people like I had a guy tell me the other day. He looked at me and scoffed and was just like, "I don't have a CD player, young man." And his wife literally grabbed the CD. She goes, "I do." And I was like, oh, get worked.
That's funny. Yeah. I mean, I bought printed vinyl, pressed vinyl this time.
Yeah. Which I feel like that's just continuing to be like an evergreen
that's been
scenario.
awesome.
Especially when you're like the album art on this is so good.
Yeah, that was done by Matt Goff, who is a really incredibly talented both visual art and musician. He's a drummer in the Bay Area, so...
Did you give him just like free reign on that, or what was
Pretty
what
much.
was the prompt?
I knew I wanted collage, and he seemed to be excited about making some collage. So he said, "I'm just going to make a bunch of collages, and if you like one of them, you can use it."
Cool.
And it's fun because I've actually seen pieces of like the other ones that I was looking at in like other people's art now. And like there was like a show poster that used one of them, and I think it was like a fun thing for him to do. The one that I ended up choosing, I really like. It was really clear to me when I saw that piece. I was like, oh, that's the one for sure.
The colors are really beautiful.
Yeah,
it's a really nice palette.
Nice colors. I like the like. I was really drawn to the image of the people walking kind of in the desert, which I think that like you might not notice at first. It's a lot easier to see on the vinyl.
That's awesome. More eye candy, not a main feature. We're talking things in the background.
Right. Exactly.
What is the worst gig you ever played?
Oh my gosh. I played a gig. I had the gig scheduled for a long time, and it was in a bar. The Warriors made it to the championships series. It was in San Francisco, and the game was on during the show.
Yeah.
And it was just like,
so people were loving you. They were just cheering you on.
Like, all of a sudden in the middle of the song, I would hear like a big cheer, and I would like have to remember that it wasn't for me.
It's not for you.
That was rough, but it was okay. Like there were people there,
Yeah.
But it's like my music isn't like, it's not really good bar music. It's not loud enough.
Sure.
To be bar music, and it's like, it doesn't, like, some of the songs are groovy, but like most of them are kind of like intimate, right? Especially when we play live. And that was a solo show too, so it was even more like intimate. That was also like early on when I was just like, yeah, I'll do anything, like, and someone offered me a gig and I was like, yeah, of course. And now I'm like, I don't know if I want to play in a room that doesn't feel good to me. Like,
yeah. I once played next to a spin class while it was going, but they also had spin class music, so you really couldn't hear me over the spin class music because it was just booming. I was like, gosh. I don't understand why I was hired to be here. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's like a aesthetic, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. You ever been at a spin class and really wished there was someone in the corner? You ever been at a Warriors game and then ever wished there was a girl singing right next to you?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't think these things through as they book.
It's okay. Like, I know there's gonna be more gigs in the future that just like aren't good. You know, like that's just how it is. But you can't let that like ruin anything for you. Just have to be like, okay, that was not a good gig, and I'm gonna move on now.
Apart from touring, like what are the things that you're looking forward to with this project?
Yeah, we're starting to record again.
Nice. Wow.
But in a different way, not in like kind of like, okay, let's all get together for a week. But like we just recorded kind of like the bones of a new song. I'm excited to write. I'm excited to record more. And I think in the winter, Gordon has a really cool spot, a studio that he built up in Oregon. Cool. And I think the three of us are going to head up there and make some music and hibernate a little bit. So I'm excited about that.
That's awesome. It's been great chatting with you. Is there anything
you
else that
too.
I forgot to ask about that you wanna? You have a love for Taylor Swift. Anything in particular that you wanna?
Yeah, I do love Taylor Swift. Like, that's how I learned guitar, by learning her
Really?
songs. So
Really?
I was like, I don't know, 14, 15, and
Yeah,
like,
that's very
she spoke
reasonable.
to me, and like,
Yeah,
her songs were easy to learn, and
yeah, and so
um,
catchy.
and so catchy. So I have to cheers her
Yeah,
for that at least, and also just like taking control of her career. It's
yeah,
cool too. The main thing that I always want to convey is that like I always like to say at my shows and anytime I get in front of people that like I feel really grateful to be making music every time I'm doing it, and
mm,
I don't want to like lose that. I don't want it to ever feel like something I'm taking for granted that I get to do that.
that's awesome. Well, I appreciate it. Pleasure meeting you.
Yeah.
And that's all. I'll clap us out.
Cool. Thanks.